Hello chess fans, this is Rick from Chess to Progress with number 5 in the series Compositions. This one is about bishop against pawns. Let's get into it. I have 3 compositions for you of bishop against pawns, and this is the first one from Reti, published in 1928. It is white to play and draw. Let's look at the position, only 5 pieces on the board. It looks like white will have a tough time to draw. That pawn on e6 is very much advanced but can easily be controlled by the bishop. Bishop can go to b5 to cover the promotion square, while black's pawn on g6 is very strong, can run down the board, and the white king is on f8 and is too far away to stop that pawn. So what can we do? Well, let's try a few things. We cannot try and stop the pawn with king f7 because it will just run to g5, king f6, g4. We will not be able to stop the pawn. If we try to play e6, e7 on the first move, that doesn't work either, because then bishop b5, covering the promotion square, king f7, g5, king f6, g4, and there's nothing that white can do. The g-pawn will promote and the white e-pawn is under control of the bishop. So what can we do? How can we draw this position? The first move is the very nice move, king f8 to e7. Why is that good, standing in front of that pawn? Well, if you now play g5, then the even more surprising, maybe king d6. Where's that king going? Well, the king is going towards the g-pawn, but taking the long way, because in the meantime it wants to harass the bishop when it tries to stop white's e-pawn. Let's look. So after king d6, g4, and this is the right time to play e6, e7, so that the bishop can only go to b5 to cover the promotion square and not to h5. So e7 from white, black has to play bishop e5 to stop the pawn, and then a very crucial tempo, king c5, going to the 5th rank, harassing the bishop has to play. If the bishop goes to a4, then there is king d4 and the king is in the square of the pawn, g3, king e3, and the white king will stop the black pawn and white has his draw. Let's look at another variation. If after king c5 the bishop goes to e8, then the same thing happens, king d4, g3, king e3, g2, king f2, bishop c6 protecting the pawn, but you can then queen your pawn with white, bishop has to take, king takes g2, and white has his draw. A very nice composition from Richard Reti, 1928. Moving the king first to e7 in front of the pawn, then d6. It looks like the king is going away from the g-pawn, but in fact it's taking the long route because it wants to harass the bishop, gain the tempo on the bishop when the bishop has to come to protect the promotion square. And another subtlety is that white has to play e6, e7 at the right time when the black pawn is on g4, so that the bishop can only go to b5 and not to h5, far away from the white king. Hope you enjoyed this one. This one is from the Platov brothers, Mikhail and Vasily Platov, published in 1906. And this time it's white to win against the bishop. Now, what strikes the eye is that pawn on h6, that is going to run to queen. And of course black has that pawn on b4, that's also very dangerous. And black has an extra bishop. Pushing the pawn straight away does not work, because after h7 there is bishop e5, controlling the promotion square, and black wins. The first move, the only first move that wins, is king f7 to e6. That makes sense because it covers the e5 square so that the bishop cannot go there to control the h8 promotion square. Black plays b3, white plays h7, and black plays bishop e5 anyway. Because if you push b2 instead, then white promotes, black promotes, and there is queen takes b8 check, king c4, queen takes b1, and white wins. So what is the idea behind bishop e5 anyway? Well, we'll see. The king has to take, and now it's crucial that that white king covers the d4 square, as we'll see in a second. Black plays b2, and if now white promotes to queen, then there is b1 queen, queen b8 check, king c4, and if you take then on b1, there is suddenly a stalemate. The black king does not have any squares, black has no legal moves, and that's why it was important to lure that king from e6 to e5 so that it protects the d4 square, so that there's a stalemate. Let's go back to the position after king takes e5 and then b2. So how can we win then? Well, we can win by promoting not to a queen, but to a rook. h8 rook, b1 queen is the only sensible move. Rook b8 check, king c4, rook takes b1, and now it is not stalemate. Because it's a rook, it doesn't cover the d3 square, so the king, the black king, has a square to go to. And white easily wins. Very nice composition from the Platov brothers. The trick with bishop e5 to get the white king to e5, and then the stalemate trick, which white can avoid by under-promoting to a rook. Let's go to the last one. This composition was published in the Deutsche Schachblätter in 1913, and it is from a composer of the name of Rubesamen. It's white to play and draw against the bishop. Now let's look at the position. Those three white pawns look very promising, but of course they are all controlled by the bishop on h2. The king on b6 is also doing a good job in attacking the pawns, and black has that pawn on b2, which is unstoppable. So how can we draw this? Let's try to promote straight away, b8 queen check. That doesn't give us a draw because then the bishop takes, and if you take the bishop, black promotes with a winning position because you cannot push c7. Well, you can, but it won't help you because there's a very nice move, queen h7. And if you promote to queen, queen a7 is checkmate. And there's no way to improve that variation. Let's look after b8 queen check, bishop takes b8. Let's look at the move c7. Then bishop takes c7. It's close to stalemate, but white still has that d-pawn. And if he pushes d6, black does not take the pawn because of stalemate. He promotes to queen and has a winning position. But this variation should give us a clue about the solution because it was almost stalemate. So the solution to the problem is that white plays one d6 on the first move. You have to get rid of your d-pawn first. If black now promotes, then white promotes with check, winning the game, because that bishop is no longer covering the b8 square. The d6 pawn is in the way. So after one d6 you have to take on d6 to keep covering the b8 square. Then white promotes to queen anyway. You have to take, bishop takes b8, and then c7. And now white has his draw. You cannot promote with black because then white promotes, winning the game. If you play bishop a7, then white also wins. c8 queen, b1 queen, queen b7 and white wins. And if you take the pawn on c7, either with the king or with the bishop, the position is a stalemate. White has no legal moves. So crucial in this composition is that you give the d pawn away first to create a stalemate idea, and then there's a forced stalemate on the board, or if black is not careful, he even can lose the game. Rubesamen, 1913. Hope you enjoyed these compositions of bishop against pawns. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the Chess to Progress channel. Please leave a comment, and if you liked the video, it would be great if you could share it on social media by clicking the share button on YouTube. You also may want to check out my Chess to Impress channel. The link is in the description box. This is Rick from Chess to Progress. Thank you very much for watching.